Good morning. We will pay attention to bank reconciliation when that is included in the question. So, first of all, we have to see if the entries that was required at the end of the previous month was completed by the bank. So, the outstanding deposits and outstanding debit order should appear on this month's bank statement. Remember that the bank reconciliation the previous month was on the 30th of June, and we are doing the books for July now. So first of all, I have to start with this bank balance in the bank reconciliation of the previous month to indicate that the opening balance at the beginning of the month was 8472. So on July the 1st, the balance brought down from the previous month was 8472. When I look at the cash journals, I see that they recorded all the entries up to the end of the month. So it means that we will have to transfer these balances in these bank columns to your bank account to indicate that is for the transactions that was already recorded. And then we will do a general journal for the entries that we still have to do at the end of the month that we only know when we see the bank statement. So these two balances will go to my bank account. So I will show on the 31st the total receipts that I post from the cash receipts journal is 51,670. And on the credit side, I will transfer the total payments from the cash payments journal as 57,378. Okay, the debit card payment of 6840, so they've recorded it on this bank statement. Then there's a deposit for 6990, and there is a deposit of 8877. Now, if we look at this deposit of 8877, that is on the bank statement. In our bank recon the previous month, we indicated it as 8778. So one of us made a mistake. The deposit in the bank statement is correct. So it means the amount for the deposit should have been 8877. We recorded it as 8778. So it means that I have to record an additional 99 Rand in the bank on the debit side because we didn't have enough on the debit side. I will have to record this 99 on the debit side. Now what's very important here is that if they tell you in a bank statement that you made a mistake with the deposit, it is very important that you know what was this 8877 for. Because if I recorded the incorrect amount in my cash payments journal, I also debited this incorrect amount. Or if I debit my bank, it means that I would credit the incorrect amount. So I also have to correct it in the ledger. Now, if they tell you that this amount was received by a debtor, it means that I don't have to take that into account. If they tell you that this 8877 was for rent income includes VAT, then it means that we have to go and calculate on that difference of 99, the portion for VAT and the rent separately. So it's very important that you must look and see what was this deposit for if you made a mistake when VAT is included in the question. Okay, because we received it from a debtor, it means that we don't have to calculate VAT on it. So I will show that the bank must be debited with the 99 Rand to increase the amount in my bank, and I will credit debtors control to indicate that they owe us 99 Rand less. And then you will write a journal narration, correction of error. I'm not going to write the journal narrations because it makes the video very long, so I'm just going to do the entries. If I debit the bank in the journal, it means I must also show it in my ledger account, and I will indicate that the account that was credited was debtors control. And this entry is posted from the general journal. Okay, the bank statement showed the following charges. Any expenses that we pay to the bank is called bank charges, except interest must be kept separately. So for that 46 Rand, it means that there's VAT included in the 46 Rand. So I first have to split that amount and say 100 over 115 will give me the amount for the service fees, and 15 over 115 will give me the amount for the VAT. So the actual expense is 40 Rand, and the VAT that I can claim back from the government in the future is 6 Rand. In the general journal, I will indicate that we have to pay bank charges, so I will debit my expense with the 40 Rand, and VAT input will be debited with 6 Rand, and I will show that the bank is credited with 46 Rand. In my bank account, I will indicate that the bank charges account will be debited with 40, and the VAT input account will be debited with 6 that I can claim back from SARS. Okay, the next entry is for interest on the credit balance. Now, in the first place, remember that interest, there's no VAT on interest. So interest and salaries and wages, you don't calculate VAT because you don't pay VAT on it. Then that's very important. If they say interest on the credit balance, it means this information I get from my bank statement. So this is the credit balance in the bank statement. What they put on the credit side, we will put on the debit side of our bank. So I must show that my bank account will be debited with that 25 Rand to increase the amount that I have in the bank. And I will create an income, interest on current account. And in my bank account, I will debit my bank account and indicate that the account that's credited is interest on current account. General Journal 25. So when you do VAT included with Bank Recon, you must know exactly which payments will be VAT included and what is not included, so that you don't do the wrong calculations. Okay, an EFT payment at the ATM for 6 184 Rand for wages. So we took money out of the bank for this wages. So wages will be debited. There's no VAT on wages, so the full amount for the expense is 684, and the bank account will be credited with 684. Then in my bank account, I will indicate that my wages account will be debited with the 684. An EFT for 483 Rand appeared on the bank statement, but was incorrectly recorded as 460 in the cash journal. The EFT was to Manama Traders for the purchase of stationery. So we bought stationery. On stationery, there's VAT included. Now the EFT is correct in the bank statement. The 483, we recorded it on the credit side of the bank as 460, so it gives me a difference of 23 Rand. Then I have to split that 23 again to determine what was the cost for the stationery and what is the amount that we can claim back from SARS for the VAT. So because the EFT is 483, we only recorded 460. It means that we must add this 23 Rand on the credit side of the bank because more money was taken out of the bank. So I will debit stationery because my expense will now increase because I also recorded the incorrect amount in my stationery account if I recorded it incorrectly in my cash payments journal. And that input will be debited because we can claim back the VAT on expenses, 3 Rand. And I will credit the bank account with 23 Rand. So in my bank account, I will indicate that the stationery will be debited with 20 Rand. And I will debit VAT input with 3 Rand. Okay, the bank mistakenly recorded a deposit of 4,300 in the bank account of Adams Traders. The deposit should have been recorded in the bank account of Madam's Traders. So the bank made a mistake here. Therefore, we will have to correct this mistake on the bank reconciliation. In my bank reconciliation statement, I must start with the balance that they had in the bank reconciliation, a bank statement at the end of the month, and they tell me that the bank statement balance had a credit balance of 8209. So the balance will be 8209. If we have a credit balance, it means that that is a favorable bank balance. So remember, in the bank reconciliation, they treat us as a liability. So they increase on the credit side and decrease on the debit side. In our bank account, in our books, we will show deposits on the debit side. In the books of the bank, they will show the deposits on the credit side. Payments will be shown on the credit side of our bank account when we post it from the cash payments journal, and in the books of the bank they will show it on the debit side. And they tell us that this is a credit balance according to the bank statement. So you have to use the balance at the end of the year or the end of the month. so that you can carry on from where the bank stopped, add the additional entries to work out what the new balance will be. Okay, so they recorded this deposit of 4,300 on the credit side. It was not supposed to be there, so we will debit the bank reconciliation to correct that mistake, and we will indicate debit the incorrect deposit. A debit card transaction of 1774 for the purchases of inventory appeared in the cash payments journal, but not on the bank statement. Now remember, we can pay with an EFT, or we can pay with a debit card. The debit card is linked to your bank account, and they will pay it out directly from your bank account to the person who's supposed to receive the money. So remember, with the EFT and with the debit card transaction, you must read very carefully whether you receive money because your client is paying with an EFT or a debit card, or whether you're paying out money with an EFT or a debit card. In this case, they say this appeared in the cash payments journal, so it means it was a debit card transaction where we paid money. So they still have to show that entry in your bank reconciliation statement, the 1774, so payments is recorded on the debit side, and we will indicate debit outstanding debit card payment. Then we will go to our bank account, and we will have to balance our bank to see if we have a debit balance and whether we've got a credit balance. So if I add up the debit side, the amount is 60,266. And then I subtract all the figures on the credit side from the 60,266 to calculate the balance carry down to the next month, and that is 2135. So on August the 1st, we will bring down this balance, indicating that the total amount available in our bank account is 2,135. This 2,135 we have to record in our bank reconciliation statement. Because the balance is on the debit side, it will be debit balance according to bank account. $2,135. And if I add up now, the total on the debit side and on the total on the credit side will be the same if I made adjustments to all the mistakes or anything that was not recorded. So any corrections or omissions was recorded, and then this would balance. Where you normally make a mistake with the bank reconciliation statement, you realize that the deposits must go on the credit side and payments on the debit side. Then you also want to swap your balances. So the balance must be on the side that they tell you, and the balance in the bank here is on the debit side, so it means it will go on the debit side. So exactly on the side where you bring down the balance. These entries that was not recorded by the bank they are recorded in the way that the bank will do it. So if there was interest not recorded by the bank, you will show the payments on the debit side or the deposits on the credit side.